of the other schemes, the stimulus programs. It's called fascism. Period, paragraph. People have to call a spade a spade.
I want to talk about something that you would think would have a lot more impact with this administration, and especially, it reminds me, Gerald, of Bill Clinton's campaign in the 90s when he ran against Bush Sr., and there was I think a label they had, it's the economy stupid, okay? Americans would like to see this economy improve, but they're seeing the administration do things that aren't improving the economy. And at the same time, I think one of the weekend talk shows where Joe Biden candidly admitted, he goes, this was a lot worse than we thought it was.
Well, let's take that statement. He's either ignorant, or the people that they have at the White House, their PhDs and all these brilliant people that are so highly credentialed, or they don't know what's going on, and they only have a beltway vision, or else they're lying to us. Those are the only options. But let's take it at its face value. When they pushed through the stimulus program, Jim, back in February, they said that by this time they would have created 600,000 jobs. They spent 20% of the money already. They've created the grand total, at best, 150,000 jobs, while 2.5 million have been lost since Obama has come into office, and an estimated 7 million jobs have been lost since this recession began. At best, they said they were going to create, with the stimulus package, between 3.5 and 4 million jobs. At best, they're going to create, as it's going, between 750 to 800,000 jobs, just doing the numbers. It's an abject failure. The money is going into the same place that our stimulus money went under the TARP program to. It's going to the Goldman Sachs gang. It's going to the Bank of America bandits. It's going to the Citigroup criminals. That's where our money is going. So, no, the program is not going to work. As I said, they're either lying, they're ignorant, or they only have beltway vision. In either case, the bailout bubble keeps getting bigger, and the losses keep adding up, and we're going to end up what we're calling in 4 years from now, Obamageddon. The rest of the world will call it the Greatest Depression.
You know what was amazing? There was another story this week that really struck me. The Chinese were in town, the bankers, and they were talking with the Obama administration. They didn't want to talk about investing. They wanted, number one, to know how long it would be before the economy recovered. Number two, when would we get our financial house in order, referring to the deficit? And I think this is one thing that concerns a lot of Americans, Gerald, is we're seeing deficits of close to $2 trillion at a time where we're heavily dependent. I mean, the Chinese are biggest bankers, and they were asking questions a concerned lender would have. Let's say that I'm a bank, and I loaned money to you, Gerald, to buy a house. You're telling me you lost your job, you're having trouble making your payments, and you're coming to me as your banker and saying, you know what, Jim, I want to buy a new car with this cash for clunkers, and we don't like the neighborhood. We'd like to trade up to a bigger house, and yet you're not even making your current mortgage payment. That's the questions that were coming to the Chinese. When are you guys going to get your financial house in order? Because we have a lot of your debt, and we're nervous about it.
Well, you know what's going on, Jim. You're one of the great financial minds in this country, and you know the answer. They're unwinding out of U.S. positions of the dollar, and they're going to do it in a way that they're going to be left with something rather than nothing. We're already seeing the Chinese and the Brazilians doing business now in yuan and reals, no longer dollars. And you know as well that the Chinese, the Russians, the Indians at the BRIC conference are looking and talking about a new exchange currency. And something else interesting about the Chinese and the hypocrisy going on here. There's hypocrisy at a lot of levels, but on one most prominent, with the TARP and stimulus programs, when we the people wanted our money spent in this country, papers such as the New York Times and others and these politicians denounced us, those of us who demanded that the money be kept here, as protectionists. Now, however, the Chinese are using all of their stimulus money with demands from Chinese companies not to buy anything with this money that is not made, manufactured, or serviced in China. So the Chinese are just looking to unwind their positions, as we see it. You cannot print phantom money out of thin air based on nothing and producing practically nothing without destroying the economy, and that's why we're calling this Obamageddon. This is the greatest criminal activity ever to hit America with these stimulus packages, buyouts, and bailouts.
A lot of people are now starting to question the economic wisdom of what this administration is pursuing. Did you get a chance to see the Jon Stewart thing on Geithner's real estate this week?
No, I did not.
Oh, it was absolutely hilarious. Jon Stewart sent out one of his reporters to talk to a real estate agent, and she was describing the neighborhood. And, of course, they're in front of Geithner's house. And she said one of the problems is this owner raised the price of his house up over the market, what he paid for it, at a time the market had dropped tremendously. And Jon Stewart reporter said, well, this can't be a very bright person. And the real estate agent said, oh, no, this is Timothy Geithner's house.
Well, look, the way these jobs work and the people, as I mentioned, with Biden saying that they didn't know the economy was so bad, as I said, they're either ignorant and their credentials mean nothing. But let's get to the reality of this. The only reason you go to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale and those other Ivy League schools is to be a member of the club. And look, for example, what went on with our soon-to-be new Supreme Court Justice, another Ivy League person. When you go out and you look at the number of people from those three schools that are running the Supreme Court, it's all incestuous. It's the Beltway handshake. So no, brains don't matter, connections do. That's why we're political atheists, because any time something is done for a political reason, that means someone gets rewarded at your expense. And Timothy Geithner, isn't he the guy that doesn't have to pay taxes while the rest of us do? And going back to the Supreme Court, by the way, look at the mediocrity, one after another, year after year, administration after administration, these little minds telling us how to read the simple language of the Constitution. What an affront to humanity.
You talk about a gathering force for another revolution. When you mention the word revolution and off with their heads, I mean, Gerald, do you see this done in a legislative way where we just simply say enough is enough, they're voted out of office, and we vote people that into office that will represent the people, or we make some amendments and saying we're not going to do this anymore? How do you see this unfolding?
The only way it could unfold in a productive manner as we see it is with a new third party. Because voting in new people into the same corruption doesn't change things. And as we call it, it's the two-headed one-party system. We're calling the new party the Progressive Libertarians. And just a footnote, one of the ways that I made my name as a trend forecaster was one of my early books back in the 80s, Trend Tracking, that I had forecast a new third party when George Bush Sr. was elected. And we mentioned, for reasons I'll never know, someone like Ross Perot. And that's the kind of movement that we can see developing now. Progressive in the terms of human rights, social needs, food, environment, quality of life issues in the progressive element. Libertarian in the sense of government staying out of people's business, and also in respect of the Constitution. And of course, I do a lot of work overseas as well. And overseas, they are very familiar with what's going on here. And I'm questioned all the time about, well, isn't it true, though, if you're a strict constitutionalist, they look at you as a terrorist group? So even over there, they know. But constitutionalist also in the sense that, in keeping with the beliefs of the Founding Fathers, not to become involved in foreign entanglements. So that's the new kind of party that we can see happening. It'll be a very difficult road, however, because of the constraints put upon free elections in this society by the two-headed one-party system.
Well, listen, Gerald, as always, it's fun to have you on the show. You seem to catch on to trends and make forecasts that others don't see well in advance. If our listeners would like to follow your work, would you please give out your website?
Sure, it's trendsresearch.com, and that's plural with an S, trendsresearch.com. And also, we encourage them to look at our past trends from 2008, for example, that we had made that would shape the future for 2009, and from 2007 that would shape 2008. So they can see for themselves, because the motto of the Trends Research Institute is think for yourself. And when people begin to think for themselves and regain their dignity and respect, then we'll have the America we all deserve.
All right, Gerald, as always, interesting to have you on the program. You have yourself a great week.